Hey guys, T-Bull here. Today I got a look at the Tier 4 Russian cruiser Kirov. Kuznetsov on the screen there. Those of you with eagle eyes may notice I changed that just a little bit for this ship. Instead of that IFHE type perk on the slot 3 on that build, moved it over to the AP penetration slash damage boost. I believe it's called punch through. You'll see why as this game goes on. This ship has pretty kick-ass AP, 180mm guns, biggest at the tier except for the Furutaka, which of course has the 203s that the Japanese cruisers employ through the duration of that line, tier 4 and up. But, you know, if you really wanted to spec this ship out just for this ship, you would want to put Yamamoto on there as well and really focus on the AP damage. HE is pretty good too. In fact, it's the strongest HP in terms of damage, again, behind the Furutaka, which leads both AP and HE damage. But this ship is very strong. It comes in second in both of those. Reload time, a little bit on the slowish side, 13.5. Compare that to 15 on the Furutaka. So I don't know if this is technically classed as a heavy or light cruiser. That classification depends on the gun caliber, of course. But I don't know what the cutoff is. Either way, it plays kind of heavy cruiser-esque. Very glass cannon, lightly armored type of a ship that if you can manage to stay alive for a while, you can really rip up some damage. This game was one of the few times in my World of Warships career where at the end of the game I yelled out... well, let me rephrase that. Most games I yell at my teammates as the game's ending, but... this is one of the few games where I was like, yes, right at the end. And very exciting finish. So hopefully you guys are in the mood to stay tuned through the entirety of the match here. Now, why am I backing up here? Usually the Sol spawn overloads the west side and the north spawn overloads the east side of the map. So usually when those situations are present on a given map, I'll try and flip around and support the other side, especially if I'm in the middle spawn. Not necessarily going to move from the wings all the way over, but that's the thinking here. Obviously, it's a little slow getting over there, but we finally do have the Königsberg popping up here. Königsberg, extreme danger in terms of tier 4 cruisers. Probably the most dangerous one until possibly the Kirov. I do want to point out in this match, I have one upgrade on the ship, the hull upgrade. It does have an AP/HE damage boost. I think it's roughly an 8 or 9% boost on the damage. And then, of course, you get the range there as well. But you can see the AP on this very strong. Even at range, the penetration doesn't really seem to have a lot of drop-off on these particular guns here. Königsberg is going to find out the hard way that sitting broadside at a Kirov, even at long range, is not a profitable play. What else is going on with the ship? Torp's 4-kilometer range is essentially worthless unless you're really getting rushed or you got a close quarter ambush situation. Mobility, pretty suspect. You got this 860 turning circle, which is 110 larger than the Furutaka, which was previously the worst at the tier. 35.5 knots in the water. Kind of middle of the pack. Most of the ships at this tier are 33, 34, 35, and of course you got the Emily at 39. And then the rudder shift 7.4, pretty on the slowish end of that thing. Detection, at least how I have it set up, 12.4, worst at the tier. So you're trading everything off for the guns, like we saw with the Kuznetsov. And I suspect most of the Russian cruisers from here on up will just be sacrificing armor, mobility, detection, everything. But then you have these outstanding gun performances. Very flat firing arcs, you know, relatively easy to hit shots at range, and very effective guns. So these low tier games have been a little bit frustrating for me just because if your team's dead within 3 minutes, it doesn't really matter what you're trying to do. The game's going to be a loss. So put in a little bit of time, but games like this, you know, are hidden in the rough, and if you can stick with it and weather the storm that is the low-tier teammates, which are even remarkably less reliable than your high-tier teammates, you can put up games like this in the Kirov. And I suspect this is a ship that once people realize how strong the AP is and start playing it accordingly, I think this should be quite a fan favorite of the Tier 4 here. Team's obviously melting. We're only down one ship here. But this, whatever I got down there, I think it's another Kirov, rushed Wyoming. Why a cruiser, whatever, want to... I mean, he's probably trying to get those 4-kilometer torps going, but do not rush battleships, okay, in cruisers. It's not a good play. They become more and more accurate the closer you get to them. Their guns are going to overmatch your armor. They're just going to beat the living crap out of you. Meanwhile, what are you going to do to them? You know, you got to have sustained attacks against these ships. Luckily, we're able to get a fire, and I think our buddy also had a fire on them. But I want you to notice that Wyoming. Look how low he is here, and then he does disengage behind the island. Ideally, these battleships, if you can get rid of them when they're that low, that's the play you need to make. But we'll see when he pops up again in 5 or 6 minutes. He'll be back to about half health. That's kind of the danger you have by leaving these alone. Unfortunately, my two choices right now are I can go one-on-one the Wyoming, and most players would do that because they tend to see what's immediately in front of them, and then they fixate on that until, you know, Kingdom Come or whatever. But the smarter play, in my opinion, is to look at the map, say, okay, we got 3 ships on the west, they have 5. If we want to have even a slight chance of winning this, and this is probably about a 2% chance of winning this game. Well, it's maybe 20% chance at this point, but it'll rapidly diminish even lower. But if you want to have a chance at winning the game, you got to go support these ships. You got to keep them alive as long as possible. I looked at them at some point. I don't know if it's previously or coming up here, but most of these ships are all really low, so at this point, I'm kind of like, all right, we're trying to farm XP. We're trying to, trying to level up these ships here. Not going to be a win, but we might as well get as much damage and do what we can here. Emily, this shot kind of surprised me. I had AP loaded, so I fired it, discharged, switched to the HE. But look at this result here, and this could be because those are relatively plunging. Maybe they drop straight down that citadel. I don't know. My experience, most of the time I've shot the Emily with AP rounds, it goes straight through. You get 6, 7 overpens, which is fine. You know, that's still a good chunk of damage, especially if it's a battleship that's roughly 1,000 per shell. Basically, you're getting, I think, 10% of your damage output. But anyway, that was a profitable shot on the Emily there. And, again, don't underestimate this AP. Don't sleep on it, because this is going to be doing quite a lot of damage here. And, now it's me and the destroyer. I think it's a walkie-talkie or whatever the hell that thing is. He's about a... Smoke that guy. He's about a, one shot. We don't know where their enemy destroyer is. I'm trying to figure that out on the map. Obviously, he's last spotted in the extreme northwest corner. So, and due to the fact that we're getting spotted, we're firing, so this Brittany should be able to spot us. But I suspect that the destroyer is probably closing in. In my mind, he's either hunting the destroyer, looking to get on the base or whatever. He's most likely coming towards us. Wyoming, if he's smart, he'll go defend his base. Battleships are worth more points towards the score than cruisers. So even if me and this other player managed to kill these 2 ships, and there's one of them right there, they still are leading on the score. We haven't been on their base at all, so we haven't flipped the score up that way. And the battleship, again, being worth more than the cruiser, they would be ahead on points. There goes our teammate. You can hear it, you're the last one or whatever. Don't like to hear that sound, especially with 3 ships left. V-170, though, we are able to get him there. And this is an interesting play that he makes. I don't know if he does it on purpose. If he does, he's a little bit too experienced to be playing a lot of Tier 3. But he shoots right at the edge of the detection. He held onto that shot right when he was going out of it. And then even though he shot and his view range or his detectability range was expanded because he left that range, we're not able to return fire on him. So Brittany is the only target there. And now we're going to be spending a lot of time flipping around, playing with the throttle. On the PC, they call this the WASD or WASD. I don't know how people pronounce it, but it's the WASD hack. I'll go ahead and call it that. I think it's W and S probably go forward and backward, and then A and D go left and right. So by flipping around, playing with your heading, your speed, all this stuff, we're going to be throwing off aim. And it's very hard to hit these ships, even if you're good at aiming, when they're being really evasive like this. But, you know, based on the circumstance, these are two low-tier battleships. They're grinding tech tree, most likely. They're not playing a new line, so we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. These are probably new players, so I'm not slamming them for not watching my aim video. Apparently they haven't found it yet on YouTube. But this shouldn't be this hard. I present broadside numerous times to these guys, and you know, if you got your aim on point, you should be able to blow this thing out of the water. This thing doesn't stand up well to taking battleship shots whatsoever. And they're shooting HE. A lot of times the Brittany switches between AP and HE. Battleships, get HE out of your goddamn arsenal. Don't even load it onto the ship. If you want to make a case for the King George or the Nelson or a couple of those British battleships, I'll listen to you, fine. Go ahead and shoot HE on those. The rest of them, 99% of the players should only be shooting AP, and once you really understand armor angling, shell mechanics, penetration, all that sort of stuff, then you can consider throwing in HE in very, limited situations where the enemy's really causing problems with you. But there's no reason for these guys to be shooting HE at a cruiser. Again, if they hit me, I die, basically, with this thing. It says 150 millimeters worth of armor, but of course the highest range of the armor is the turrets, and you know, without an armor view I can't confirm that it's as weakly armored as I'd suspect. But those of you that play PC, let me know in the comments. But just based on the experience of playing 5 or 6 games in this thing, it seems to explode pretty readily if battleships actually hit it. At this point in time, I'm still not even considering a win. I'm just basically trying to start this guy on fire. You can see the destroyer still unspotted. I think he pops up here any second, but you know, again, I'm susceptible to being one shot. The Wyoming, I think the Brittany was shooting AP here, so I was trying to primarily focus on dodging his shot. The Wyoming, if he's going to shoot HE, it's not going to do a massive amount of damage. There's the V-170, not the easiest ship to hit. In fact, it's probably one of the hardest ships to hit, but this thing has no problem smoking that here. Damage con is pretty critical at this point in the game. You can see I'm mainly holding it for things like steering gears or engine damage. The guy just blew my steering gears apart there, so we had to pop the damage con there. Starting to fire. Fire damage isn't massive on cruisers. It's all percentage based, and it's shorter duration than battleships, so you don't want to be burning the damage con bad, because then if they blow your steering gears out, and that torp looked like it was the end there, but luckily we were out of his range. But if you get stuck with that steering gears, then the dodge ability goes out the window. You really can't do anything except for go in a circle. I think it kind of locks your steering gear in place. There, the Wyoming dies. We had him on fire, and he burned the ground. Now the Brittany, we're shooting AP. Check these results into the broadside of the ship here. Potent. The Brittany's not the most heavily armored ship, but we're going to be getting anything between 3 and 5k damage per salvo. Again, not a high velocity type of output in terms of the reload time on this thing, but still, these are potent shots, and we're causing problems for this guy. I don't know, finally he wises up. I'm not going to say he intentionally angled here, but he angled and would discharge the loaded round there, and then we switched to HE. And as long as he's angled there, the AP is not going to be really effective at all. You know, going to get a little bit of damage hitting the superstructure here and there, but you definitely want to switch to the HE in this situation. Discharge that load all over him, and I believe this one starts a fire. And then he's kind of getting greedy. He's trying to open that back gun up again and get the maximum amount of shots coming into us. That shot right there should be, if this is AP, I'm dead like 10 times here. So what I do about as well as I think I can do in this situation, but the other players kind of let me get away with what we end up doing here. Now he's going back broadside again, so we fire the HE, switch right back over to the AP, and I'm not aiming right at the waterline, but I'm not trying to hit that heavily armored, belt armor right at the waterline, the Citadel armor. we're not going to get those kind of penetrations, I don't believe, at least. But we're aiming about halfway up, and we're just trying to get the more lightly armored parts of the ship there. And you can see the results are quite effective. Again, we're playing at the heading, we're switching back and forth, flipping around, playing with the throttle, trying to make it as difficult as possible for this guy. And here I'm starting to believe we got him on fire, and maybe one, maybe two more salvos. Clock is running down, though. It's getting short on time. So this is probably going to have to do it right here. We're going to see what happens. And we actually closed that one out for the Kraken. So that one got me yelling in a positive manner for the first time in about 1,000 games. So hopefully you guys did enjoy the look at the Kirov. If you did, please hit the thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. Lots of World of Warships coming all the time. Questions, comments, leave them below. Let me know how the Russian cruisers and destroyers are treating you. And we'll see y'all later. All right, peace.